The Kidnapping of Freddy Heineken, a true crime story. Picture Amsterdam in 1983, a city of narrow canals glinting under gray skies, bikes clattering over cobblestones, and a laid-back vibe that hid its wealth. At the center of it all stood Freddy Heineken, the 60-year-old mastermind of the Heineken beer empire. With his slick suits and sharp eyes, Freddy wasn't just a businessman, he was a legend. His grandfather started the brewery, but Freddy turned it into a global name. Those green bottles popping up in bars from New York to Tokyo. It was worth millions, living in a world of boardrooms and private jets, yet he stayed rooted in Amsterdam, a king in his own quiet way. Every day, Freddy left his office on Stadhoudersgade Street, a grand building with tall windows and the faint hum of money being made. His driver, Ab Doderer, was always there. 50s, stocky, with a no-nonsense face weathered by years behind the wheel. Abe wasn't just a chauffeur. He was Freddy's shadow, loyal and steady, the kind of guy who'd take a punch for his boss without blinking. Together, they were a routine, a well-oiled machine in a city that loved its order. But across town, 5 young men saw Freddy differently. Paul van Houts, the leader, was a dreamer with a wiry frame and a mind full of plans. Willem Hollander, his best friend, had a boxer's build and a temper to match. Jan Bollard was the quiet fixer, good with tools. Frans brought a nervous energy, always fidgeting. Martin Aircomes, the youngest, just wanted in on the action. They weren't big-time crooks. Some had done petty theft, others odd jobs. But they were restless, tired of scraping by. Over beers one night, maybe even Heineken, the irony thick, Poor laid it out. Why not kidnap Freddy? He's got millions. We could be set for life. The idea grew like a spark, catching dry grass. Why Freddy? He was rich, famous, and his company could pay a ransom without blinking. They settled on 35 million Dutch guilders, 16 million US dollars back then, a number that made their heads spin. They didn't want blood on their hands. This was about cash, not cruelty. For months, they watched him, trailing his car through Amsterdam's winding streets, noting when he left work where Ab parked. They weren't pros, but they were bold, treating it like a heist movie they write themselves. By November 1983, the plan was locked. November 9th would be the day. Freddy Heineken, the Bear King, had no clue his empire was about to be shaken. November 9th, 1983, dawned cold and gray in Amsterdam. The canals shimmered with a thin mist, and the city moved at its usual unhurried pace. For Freddy Heineken, it was business as usual. He spent the day in his office, signing papers, sipping coffee, his voice carrying that calm authority everyone knew. Around 7 p.m., he grabbed his coat, nodded to his secretary, and stepped outside. Ab Doderer was waiting by the car, a sleek Mercedes, black and polished, keys dangling in his hand. Across the street, Cor van Houts gripped the wheel of a beat-up white van, his knuckles white. Willem Hollander sat shotgun, cracking his knuckles, eyes locked on Freddy. Jan, Frans, and Martin crouched in the back, masks ready, hearts thumping like drums. They run this in their heads a dozen times. Every move, every second. No guns, no mess, just speed. They parked earlier, blending into the evening bustle, just another van in a city full of them. Now, as dusk settled, the street emptied out. It was perfect. Freddy reached for the car door. That's when the van lurched forward. Tires squeaked, doors flew open, and three figures in dark jackets spilled out. It was over in a flash. Frans grabbed Freddy's arm. John pinned Ab before he could react. Willem barked, "Move!" and they hauled both men into the van. Freddy stumbled but didn't fight. Ab grunted, caught off guard. The door slammed shut, and the van peeled away, swallowed by Amsterdam's maze of streets. Back on Stad Oderskade, the office lights glowed, but no one saw a thing. A passerby might have heard the engine, but it was gone too fast. Inside the van, Freddy sat upright, his voice steady, despite the ropes on his wrists. "What do you want?" he asked, eyeing Core. No answer came, just the sound of the engine and the kidnapper's ragged breathing. They'd done it. The Bear King and his driver were theirs. Amsterdam kept moving, oblivious, as the van vanished into the night. The van didn't head to some glamorous hideout. No penthouses or secret caves here. Instead, it rolled into Westport, a drab industrial zone on Amsterdam's edge. Warehouses loomed like silent giants, their windows dark, the air thick with oil and rust. The kidnappers had scouted this spot for months now, a plain shed behind a furniture workshop they rented cheap. From the outside, it was nothing. Peeling paint, a sagging roof, the kind of place you'd pass without a glance. But inside, they turned it into something else. They built two small cells, wooden walls, thick insulation, soundproof tight. No screams would escape, no footsteps echo. It wasn't fancy, just functional, with a concrete floor and a faint smell of sawdust. Freddy stepped into his cell, a thin mattress, a bucket in the corner, a weak bulb flickering overhead. Ab got the same setup next door, separated by a flimsy partition. "Stay quiet, you'll be fine," Willem growled, his voice more tired than threatening. The shed was their pride and joy. They spent weeks on it, Jan hammering panels, Frans testing acoustics, Cora barking orders. They'd even slept there once, making sure it held up. Now, with Freddy inside, it felt real. He sat on the mattress, sizing up the space like a CEO inspecting a new office. "Not bad," he muttered, half to himself. Ab just leaned against the wall, silent, his mind on his wife back home. The kidnappers weren't cruel. They brought blankets, checked the heater. A small electric one, buzzing faintly. It wasn't about comfort, it was about keeping things smooth. Freddy watched them, noting their nerves. Frans fidgeting, Martin pacing. Amateurs, he thought, but kept it to himself. For now, the Bear King was a prisoner, locked in a shed that could have been anywhere in the city's forgotten quarters. Morning broke on November 10, cold and still. In the shed, Freddy woke to the sound of boots on concrete. Breakfast time. The kidnappers didn't rush. They planned his next step carefully. The demand. No phone calls yet, too risky with police tapping lines. Instead, Core typed a note on an old typewriter they borrowed, pecking out each letter. "We have Freddy Heineken and Ab Doderer. 35 million guilders. No police or they're gone. Instructions soon." Simple, direct. Frans dropped in a mailbox across town. "Put up. blending in the morning crowd. At Heineken headquarters, the day started normal until Freddy didn't show. His secretary frowned, called his house. Lucille, his wife, answered, voice tight. He didn't come home. By noon, the boardroom was chaos. Executives in suits barked questions. Phone rang off the hook. When the note arrived the next day, delivered to a company lawyer, the room went silent. 35 million guilders, $16 million. It was a fortune, even for Heineken. They got him, someone whispered. Police rolled in quietly. No sirens, no press. Amsterdam's top brass took over. Inspector Tordenad, a gruff man with a cigar habit, led a hush-hush operation. The note's twist? 4 currencies. Guilders, German marks, French francs, US dollars. It was Core's idea to muddy the trail. Back in the shed, they waited, listening to a crackly radio for any sign. Freddy got bread and cheese and a cup of water. How much? He asked again, voice level. Core just smirked. Enough. Lucille paced at home, a slim woman with steel in her eyes. The company debated, pay or stall. But Freddy was the heart of Heineken. They'd pay. In the shed, the kidnappers kept busy, counting shifts, checking locks. Their demand was out, the clock ticking. Freddy leaned back, plotting his own game. Stay calm, wait it out. A week crept by, slow and strange. In the shed, Freddy and Ab found a rhythm. Mornings brought food, bread, apples, sometimes lukewarm coffee in a tin mug. The kidnappers weren't chefs, but they kept it coming. Twice a day, like clockwork. Freddy, ever practical, asked for a deck of cards one day. Frans shrugged, handed over a worn pack. Knock yourself out. Freddy played solitaire on the mattress, flipping cards with the focus of a man running a meeting. Ab, next door, stayed quiet, tracing cracks in the wall with his eyes, thinking of home. The shed was chilly, the air damp. That little heater hummed, barely cutting the cold, but it was something. The kidnappers didn't rough them up. No fists, no threats. They had agreed early. No violence unless it went south. Franks even mumbled. Sorry about this, Mr. Heineken. One night, shifting awkwardly. Freddy nodded, dry as ever. Just don't be stupid, kid. He saw their nerves. Martin pacing. Jan muttering about cops. They weren't killers, just in deep. Outside, Amsterdam buzzed with whispers. Papers ran vague stories. Heineken exec missing. But police clamped down hard. In the shed, the radio stayed low, snagging bits of news. Core kept the group tight. No slips, we're almost there. Freddy heard enough through the thin walls. Talk of money, drop points. He talked to Ab when he could, voice low. They're not pros. Company'll pay, we'll be fine. Ab grunted agreement, trusting Freddy's red. For Freddy, it was like a business trip. Uncomfortable, sure, but manageable. He studied the kidnappers, their habits, their cracks. Time dragged, the bulb flickering, but he stayed steady, a king holding court in a concrete box. By November 20th, the ransom was set. Heineken's team had scrambled for days, pulling cash from banks across Europe. 4 currencies meant chaos. Guilders in stacks, marks in bundles, francs and dollars counted by sweaty clerks. It was a fortune, packed into heavy bags, ready to go. The kidnappers called that night, a payphone, voice distorted. 4 drops. Amsterdam, Utrecht, Zeist, Lagerwursche. Tomorrow. No cops. Click. Short. Sharp. Done. November 21st. Dawn tense. Company men in plain cars fanned out. Hands shaking. In Amsterdam, a bag splashed into a canal lock. Fished out of later by Jan. Utrecht went under a stone bridge. Frans grabbed it, hood low. Zeist's suitcase sat in a park, snatched by Martin. Lagerwursche, a muddy ditch. Willem hauled it up, cursing the weight. Then watched from shadows, no police in sight. By dark, the cash was theirs, split into stashes across the city. In the shed, Freddy felt the shift. The kidnappers came back late, voices high, counting bills under a lantern. "We got it," Horace said, grinning wide. Freddy stayed silent, watching. Ab muttered, "About time." The money was real, millions in their hands. But Freddy knew cops weren't far. Freedom was close if the plan held. November 30th marked 3 weeks. The kidnappers were antsy. Cash counted, bags packed. They'd won, or so they thought. Court decided it. Time to cut loose. Fred and Ab were blindfolded again. Hands free now, led to the van. "You're going home," Willem said, almost soft. The drive was quiet, just engine sound and Freddy's steady breathing. 20 minutes later, it stopped. They stumbled out onto a dark road near Zeist, a sleepy town with woods and silence. Blindfolds off, they blinked, taillights fading fast. Freddy straightened his suit, dusty but intact. "Well, that's that," he said to Ab, who nodded, rubbing his wrists. They trudged to a gas station, neon buzzing, and called the cops. By midnight, they were safe, tired stiff, but whole. Amsterdam lit up with the news. Freddy Heineken free. Lucille cried when she saw him. Ab hugged his wife at home. The shed was behind them, a weird dream fading fast. For the kidnappers, though, the game wasn't over yet. The 5 men who kidnapped Freddy Heineken and his driver Ab Doderer pulled off one of the boldest crimes in Dutch history on November 9, 1983. They demanded 35 million Dutch guilders, around $16 million US at the time, got the cash, and released their hostages unharmed on November 30th. But their victory didn't last long. A tip-off led police to their trail, and one by one they were caught. Here is how it shook out for each. Cor van Hout, the ringleader, a wiry dreamer with big ambitions, fled to Paris with Willem Hollader after the ransom drop. They were nabbed by French police on February 29, 1984, but extradition took years, over 3 to be exact. They dodged, weaved, and stalled, bouncing between French prisons, house arrest in hotels, and even a stint in the Caribbean. Finally extradited to the Netherlands on October 31st, 1986, Cor was sentenced in February 1987 to 11 years in prison. He served his time, got out, but couldn't quit crime. He climbed the Dutch underworld ladder until 2003, when he was gunned down by an assassin in Amsterdam. The killer? Never caught. Some whisper Willem had a hand in it. Bad blood runs deep. Willem Hollader, the tough guy with a boxer's edge. Willem followed Cor to Paris and shared the same wild extradition ride. He too landed an 11-year sentence in 1987, a year less than Jan because of time served in France. Released in 1992, he didn't go straight. Nicknamed the Nose, he became a Dutch crime lord linked to multiple contract killings, including Coors in 2003. In 2019, he was convicted of ordering 5 murders plus manslaughter and slapped with a life sentence. He's still behind bars today, a kingpin who fell hard. Jan Bollard, the quiet fixer. Jan stayed in the Netherlands after the kidnapping and was one of the first caught, arrested in December 1983. He got 12 years in October 1984, no discount for him. He served his full term, got out, but dipped back into crime. In 1994, he killed a customs agent, earning another decade in prison. He's kept a lower profile since, fading from the spotlight compared to his flashier pals. Martin Aircomes. The youngest at 21, Martin was the latecomer to the crew. Arrested in December 1983 with Jan, he was sentenced to 8 years in October 1984, the lightest term, maybe because he was less involved in the planning. After release, he drifted into drug smuggling, got busted in Spain in 1996, then mostly vanished from public view. Word is, he tried a property gig in Panama that went sour, but he's been quiet since. Frans Meyer's story takes a turn straight out of a movie when he bolts from that psychiatric center in Amsterdam on January 1st, 1985. Picture it, New Year's fireworks popping, guards distracted, and Frans slips out, gone. He hops a train to Belgium, then somehow makes its way to Paraguay, a South American hideout known for sheltering fugitives. With over 2.5 million guilders, about 1.2 million US dollars, of ransom cash allegedly in his pocket, he's got enough to start over. In Paraguay, Frans reinvents himself. He changes his name to Francisco, marries a local woman, and has 3 kids. He opens a burger joint, a greasy little spot in Asunción, the capital, serving up patties while blending into the laid-back vibe. For nearly a decade, he's off the radar, living a quiet life under the sun. Locals don't know his past. To them, he's just a Dutch guy with a restaurant. He even finds religion, claiming Christianity changed him, maybe thanks to his wife's influence. It's a far cry from the Amsterdam streets, where he once plotted with Cor and Willem. But the past catches up. In 1994, Dutch crime journalist Peter R. de Vries, think of him as a real-life detective with a nose for scoops, tracks Frans down. De Vries confronts him outside the burger joint, camera rolling. Frans freezes, then mumbles, "It's God's will you're here." Busted. Paraguay police arrest him in 1995, but legal red tape stalls extradition. He's jailed there, released once due to a glitch, then nabbed again in 1998. Frans fights it hard, hiring top lawyers with his leftover loot, but by 2002, he's out of moves. Extradited to the Netherlands, he serves the rest of his 12-year sentence, walking free in 2005. Back in Paraguay briefly, Frans can't shake the criminal itch. By 2018, he's in Amsterdam again, and trouble finds him fast. On October 2nd, he's shot by a motorcycle cop during a botched robbery, caught with a gun, fake mustache, and his son as backup. He survives, gets 3 years in 2019, and fades from the headlines. Paraguay was his escape, his second act, but the Heineken shadow never let him go. In the end, the kidnapping of Freddy Heineken was a daring grab that shook Amsterdam, a $16 million gamble by 5 dreamers who nabbed a bear king and walked away, only to fall one by one. Cor met a bullet, Willem got life, Jan and Martin faded, and Frans ran to Paraguay's sun before fate dragged him back. Freddy, he sipped his beer, unshaken, and died a legend in 2002, leaving a story of guts, cash, and a shed that still echoes over cold Heineken today. End of story. So that's a wrap of the kidnapping of Freddy Heineken. Make sure you like and subscribe for more true crime stories from around the world and murder mysteries. And we will see you in the next one.